Let's get down to business. Just want to let you guys know that I am on TikTok. Link is in the description. Link is in the description to all these awesome videos that I've made. Over 300 plus videos I've made. Please check those out. Please, if you like my videos, I hope you share. Happy Black History Month. If you want to know my opinion about Resident Evil or something, I have commentary about Blackness, about anti-Blackness, about colorism, about texturism within all facets of almost all of my videos because it relates to me as a person. I am a Black woman in the gaming sphere, which is very racist, very homophobic, very transphobic, very everything in between. So there's that. We're not going to be talking about that really today. Just wanted to give you like a little taste. If this is the first time you're watching my videos, I just have a feeling this is going to be a video that a lot of people are going to be looking at. Maybe, I don't know. But today we are going to be talking about just a little quick bit on The Menu. I just watched The Menu. I had no expectations for this movie at all because I really didn't hear anybody talk about, oh, this is great. I just heard that people liked it and I kept seeing a lot of people say a lot of nice things about it. And I didn't look at anything before watching the movie. I had no idea what was going to happen. I just knew that there was something to be survived because the moment you see the dude who played Voldemort for like 6+ years, give or take, you know he's going to be evil. You know he's going to be killing people. Like, you know he's the villain. But they try to make it seem like, okay, I've talked a lot about classist stuff and the whole class and cast and all that jazz before. I've never like specifically made a video about it, but this movie is kind of like one of those things where I completely understand fighting the man, fighting the big bad, fighting capitalism, while in turn I acknowledge that most of the time, all of the time, they try to do these stories about trying to make the people who are at the top, the top 1%, the rich people look like the worst people in the world, yet they still have a sense of empathy towards them. They have a sense of you don't want them to die. You feel sorry for them. And I just want to figure out how we can make movies, make media, make something that is a critique on capitalism that doesn't make them very empathetic at all. Like, a good example of this would be Parasite. You have more empathy for the people who you see are struggling, and you want them to succeed more than you want these rich people to stay alive. We saw aspects of their life, but there was no humanization of the Parkers or the rich people in Parasite. There was no empathizing with them. With The Menu, because you make this dude a villain and seem very crazy, and I think the reason why and then here's another aspect with this. The girl who played that girl in Split, I don't know her name. I'm sorry. But she looks like a dove. This is going to be like the second time I've seen her play a character that was spared because she was used, abused, broken, and dealt with. Like, she's a prostitute. She's going by a false name, and that's why the guy doesn't know her. But I wonder if he knew her real name. Would he have kept her there? And that's really interesting. By the way, like I said, this video is a spoiler review type of quick bits. My quick bits are just when I talk about something and I don't have like a script at all. I just talk about it after I've watched it or after I've thought about it long enough. This girl was spared because she was a prostitute. She's a server. And like, just to go run down this movie real quick, it's just a bunch of people coming to this island. They're supposed to be rich people who have a lot of money, whether they're guys who just faked it to make it, which I don't necessarily understand what they're trying to say with making the dude who originally was going to be Daniel Radcliffe playing himself, supposedly. I don't know. I really like Daniel Radcliffe. I want to like him a lot. I haven't seen enough of him to say I fully support who he is. I just like the fact that he's cool and he does what he likes. Personally, I would say he was the weakest actor in Harry Potter. And that's saying a lot for the fact that everybody was doing such a really good job, and he can do a good job playing Harry Potter, but like the woman in black, please be serious. I really didn't have necessarily an issue with his Frankenstein, which is the one that a lot of people say is the worst movie he's ever made. But I've yet to see Weird Al's, and Weird Al supposedly handpicked this dude. So we'll see how he does with that movie. I just don't quite understand why they make people who are English or who are from another country try to be American, and then vice versa for Americans try to make us seem like we're from Jamaica or something. Like every time, like, I just don't understand. Why can't people from Jamaica play Jamaican characters? Why can't people from America play American heroes? Like, it's just crazy. I've yet to see where they've made it, where they have hired a person who is ADOS to play an ADOS hero. Like, I've seen a lot of Martin Luther King Jr.'s and stuff played by, I really don't care. It's just like, those are the big high rollers. There's like I'm going into something deeper before. Let me get back to the topic because I'll just keep going. But the menu, all these people, dude that plays Sid in Ice Age, he is this guy who's this ruffian bum who like lied his way to the top, and he always name drops. He's like, oh yeah, I know this guy. So everybody's like, oh, we could trust them because he knows this guy. And he has an assistant who is also, I think, Hispanic descent. I'm only going to say what they look like because perception is reality to society, not reality to reality. That's why, like, everything's the way it is, but whatever. Anyway, I'm just going to say what they present, not what they represent, because I don't necessarily know, and I'm not going to look it up. I'm just going to say what they look like because that's what everyone takes by. Just like when everybody was talking about how Velma was black, when I even thought Velma was black until I did my research and I got educated and I saw that she was Indian / she is Asian because Indian is Asian. But that's another one of those things that society doesn't believe that. Therefore, you have to keep reiterating that in conversation, just like how they talk about how Christopher Columbus discovered Indians when this is not India. Why do we still call Native Americans Indians? A lot of indigenous people prefer to be called indigenous, but then we get into the topic of indigenous to where, because there are a lot of Native Americans, there are a lot of indigenous people who are not necessarily indigenous to America, and the whole fact that America exists is another problem, and they don't want to be associated entirely. And I don't like, it's just, you know, it's a continuous conversation. So like I said, loser Sid dude from Ice Age, Louis Luzandla, he's got a tongue twister tie name, John Leguizamo, who has this assistant who we find out she's going to die because she didn't have to take loans out for college. It's hilarious. It's crazy. And this is a lot of camp. This is a very campy movie. And I feel like it would have been a better movie had it been a little bit more serious. I think people are looking at the Marvel stamp, and it's like anyone will watch a Marvel movie, it will always sell, even if it's bad. I feel like Marvel was better when it wasn't trying to be Deadpool every 2 seconds, when everybody wasn't trying to be what they turned Robert Downey Jr., because he was a jerk, but he wasn't a funny jerk. He was a jerk like, ill, get out of here, you stink, you make me sick. And yes, people are like, people can change. And yeah, he changed. He did change. But like I said, what he turned into was this wisecracking dude that everybody liked, even though he was still a jerk. That's how they write men. They let men be jerks all the time. But if a woman is a jerk like that, she's a B and an H and everything under the sun. That's just how it goes. So, yeah, how that's what they're doing. And I think menu is just another one of those things. It's like they want to sell. So they're going to try to make every other person be a wisecracker, wise guy, wise doc. Like, it's just that moment in cinema. This is what we're going to have to deal with until somebody does something completely opposite. I feel like there's certain movies that are like cultural resets for different facets of cinema. And I'll give you this example. Saw, something that I was afraid of as a child that I now find comedy in because it's a joke now. It's insane. I don't understand how you thought that you were going to hire a dude that is known for being a comedian and has found no other success anywhere else other than being a comedian. And then another black man who is also funny and also in the Marvel, he's stuck in the Marvel whirlpool of only having to be a funny, wisecracked person, can't just be a character that's not like that. And then thought that we were going to take Jigsaw, this like spin-off type same universe series, seriously. Now, I was thinking about making a Saw movie video for each of the Saw movies because as an adult, I've gone back on them and I don't like watching them. They're gross, but like just to bring back around, let me know if you want any Saw movies. Just let me know in the comment section if you'd like that, because I do not know what I'm doing with this channel right now. I'm literally just like playing video games. I don't know what to do. I don't know what y'all want because my views are a little inconsistent and I really need your feedback. Thank you. But the culture reset aspect is what I was talking about. Saw culture reset how we do gore in movies, I believe. I don't watch Hostel. I didn't watch anything gross like The Human Centipede. I'm not watching that garbage. It's garbage to me. But Saw, despite being a little funny, a little camp here and there, a little bit, to be honest, it pushed the envelope for other people afterwards, after the first Saw movie, to be more graphic with what they showed on camera. It used to be what you didn't show, and I think it's moving back to what you didn't show because it was such a gore fest after Saw did that people were sick of seeing gore and they just wanted to see, like, to be intensified. That's why we have this emergence after that of psychological horror or trying to humanize or personify emotion or abuse. We've seen that in The Invisible Man. We've seen that in a lot of other things that have been popping off lately, the Babadook, stuff like that. And the one that I've recently seen, Smile or whatever, I thought that was really gross. It was a really gross movie. I was worried that this girl was going to be typecast. And I'm kind of fine with typecasting at this point, like I said, because I used to be one of those people that are like, oh my goodness, don't typecast this person. But y'all, me, the whole world, we're not going to buy something that isn't familiar. And I think if you can typecast yourself and make money, like I just saw someone on Twitter talking about how Pink is making the same songs and y'all buying it. Like she's got 10 billion views on like Twitter and she's not really active on Twitter that much anymore, if she ever was. But she gets a lot of views and she gets a lot of people listening to her music because she knows her niche. She tried something different. She tried to be the ethnically ambiguous character, whatever she was trying to be back in the 2000s or whatever, and it didn't work. So the only place she can thrive is comeback, heart sick girl, punk girl. That's what she's good at. And I think I'm glad that she can find a niche. But the girl from 13 Reasons Why, which is another thing, if you want me to watch, or if you want me to watch I can't watch it, but I can review it. I already watched the first season. I was there when they originally put that girl, Hannah Baker, killing herself in the bathroom. I literally saw that scene. Don't have that scene no more on there. You can't see that anymore unless you probably look online. I have no idea if they sponged it, but I know that it's not there anymore when you watch the show because people were harassing them about, oh, I can't believe the I have a lot to say about 13 Reasons Why, but if you want me to make a video about it, you're going to have to talk about it and tell me, because I refuse to make a video about that nonsense unless it's something y'all are going to see and it's not going to just sit there, be with like 5 views and call it a day. You know what I mean? So just let me know what you want from me on this channel. Thank you. But this girl was typecasted to deal with trauma. The girl that's in Smile or whatever it's called. I can't remember, but anywho, the menu. Like, everything's crazy. I don't know. We're like 16 minutes in and I haven't even really talked about the menu. I feel like I should start over. I'm going to go down each of the list of characters. And then from there, we'll get from there. And then we'll see how it goes. And then I'll talk about the ending and the burger. And like, I liked it. My mom did not like it as much as I did. I liked it a little more than she did, but not by much. Here we go. First person, Tyler, the BSer, hired a prostitute because his girlfriend broke up with him and she was supposed to be the one that went on this retreat thing. It's $12,500 per person on a ship to a private island. Some people went there before. Tyler is not one of those people, I don't think. I don't think he's been here before. He kind of looks like a Great Value version, or maybe the higher version of what Merlin, his name's Collins, I think his real name is. But if you've ever watched Merlin, and I'm gonna make my video on Merlin one day I will make it. I'm thinking about doing it by episode instead of by season that I wanted to do it before, because it's just so good. I need to talk about it because y'all are guessing Game of Thrones up too much anyway. Tyler the BSer hired a prostitute because his girlfriend broke up with him. He's a dude from Warm Bodies. I don't know if y'all have seen that movie. That was the first time I ever saw this dude. It was a dumb movie. Didn't like it really. It was really dumb. Watched it on Valentine's Day. Still dumb. Who hired her knowing that they would die. He's obsessed with the food and the chef that is Voldemort. The next person, Margot. Real name, I can't remember her real name right now, is the girl who survives for being used, abused, and is of the serving class. And I'll talk about that in a second. John Lezigiano, that dude that played a drag queen in Tu Wong Fu, and Sid the Sloth in Ice Age. He's like a fake actor who was going to be Daniel Radcliffe, supposedly. Apparently, word on the street is Daniel Radcliffe was doing Weird Al, so he couldn't do it, or he was doing something else at the time, so he couldn't go. Or he said no. I have no idea. I have no idea the story. Please let me know in the comments if you know the story about that. With his assistant, don't remember her name, but she's Sid the Sloth's assistant, whose only crime is being able to pay for college, which is a little strange. I really don't like. I'll talk about it at the end. I don't understand how the girls are treated as the girls and women of this movie, aside from Margot, literally are their worst mistake. Their smallest mistake is equivalent to the worst mistake ever done in the guy's eyes. It's crazy. Like, okay, here's an example. So, the next people, Judith Light playing the cheated on wife of a scumbag for the 50th time, which makes me question, why did she have to die? Literally, she didn't do anything as far as I can tell. I would have to watch the movie again to be sure 100%, she's not somebody horrible, but she has a husband who cheated on her and also hired Margot as a prostitute to pretend to be his daughter. Yes, you heard that correctly. And he was being inappropriate with her and whatnot. So I guess unless she knew about that and she was okay with it, which it is confirmed that she isn't and she didn't know, why is she having to die with her husband that's scum? What did she do that was on the same level as hiring a prostitute to pretend to be your daughter while you masturbate? I just don't understand what she could have done that was worse, because we didn't see her tortilla. There was a tortilla. I'll talk about that when I talk about the food, the courses and whatnot. It's just unless she is to be a representation of a wife who knew and did nothing wrong or did nothing about the situation, it still puts a lot of responsibility on the wife for her husband being an infidel at best. Dirty piece of garbage, sin dipped in misery at worst. So I'm just I can't deal with that. But the next person is a food critic who looks like Jackie from the show Roseanne turned Connors. If y'all want to see my video on the Connors, because I really liked Roseanne, except some aspects. There were a lot of aspects that were not good. And in the context of white America, it was a good show at its surface and at the beginning. First 2 seasons, I feel are the most canon and down to earth, while the longer it went, the more nonsensical it became, and became less about struggling class and more about just these white people going on these Disney World and whatnot. And it's one thing to it'd be cool. They could have still gone on these certain things and vacations in Roseanne Turn the Connors. But I personally feel like I don't know. It's like, I don't know. If you want me to talk about it, please let me know in the comments. But this food critic, for some reason, just because she's doing her job and being a food critic, she's got to die. Like I said, I have no idea why these women are being punished. Like on her tortilla. I'll wait till we get to the courses before I talk about that. And her assistant gets to die. For what? For getting a job, for having a job. Unless she's like doing, like, okay, there's these 3 dudes. The representation of an Asian man, representation of a black man, and another white person. So I tell you, there's like, most of all these people are white. I just want to let you know, this is yet another movie that I have to exist and watch and see that I'm not represented in the main cast. Because there was a black girl. Because before y'all start talking about there was a black girl, she was that I don't care about the servers. They did not get barely any lines except the dude that shot himself. And I'm just like I said, this is a spoiler discussion. So, but black women don't get to go anywhere. We don't get to be a part of anything unless we are like the nursemaids or falling in some old timey wimey stereotype. And then yet again, it's like, here we go. There's the black girl over there in the kitchen cooking. And yes, there are white men in the kitchen cooking. But like I said, main cast, white man, main villain, white man. If you don't, it's funny. It's interesting. This is how I determine whether things are diverse or not. Main villain is a white man. If you're mad that, oh, why is the white man got to be a villain? It's really interesting because guess what? There are like 4 or 5 other white men who are not the main villain of the story. You can like the gay white man. You can like the straight white man who's a jerk, but he's not the villain. You can like that dude who literally hired a prostitute to be his daughter. If you don't like him, you also got the dude who's the dude that they like. They put wings on him and then they put him in the water and let him drown. You can like him if you want to, but what do I get? I have to look at these women, these white women, and have to say, okay, that's my representation because there's no black women in this. And then people are like, you can't always be. And it's really interesting. It's funny how you can't always be, but here's an Asian woman. If you want to talk about the servers who actually had lines other than yes, chef, because don't tell me that the girl, like, don't tell me she's on the same caliber, even though that girl had tons of lines. Please spare me that nonsense. It's just interesting. So now that you know, everybody, basically, also those 3 dudes are like embezzled. They embezzled money and whatnot. Everyone's done bad things, I guess, but he has no, he doesn't care. Like that dude that got sent into the water, he asked for a substitution, which is interesting because that girl asked for a substitution at the end and that's how she survives. So I just don't understand what this movie was trying to do. Like I see where it was trying to go, but the campiness, like I said, if it was taken a little bit more serious, I feel like it would have had more things to say or better things to say. But because the campiness was cool and I liked the campiness. My mom didn't like the campiness. I liked it, but I feel like it would have garnered more understanding, more depth to it. And another thing, it would have made more sense if the villain was not a white man. Also, let's just say that like black people can be villains. But let me give you this example. Guess what? People who watched Wednesday, I'm not doing a video on Wednesday. I didn't finish it and I didn't like it. Pretty disgusting. It's vanilla. Oh, I'm like the odd one out. Like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about for real? Like, let's just be honest. What are you talking about? Like, there's this person who did a video on Wednesday. They're black and they did a very good job at explaining why it makes no sense for Wednesday to be talking about how your school's underfunded when everything looks very spick and span. I went to an underfunded school. We did not have a track. We ran in dirt. And then when we were going to a track meet, we had to run on this thing. That's why when I did the hurdles, I practiced on dirt. So I understood what it felt like to be on dirt. I didn't get a chance to run the hurdles on an actual track. Therefore, I fell because I didn't anticipate the impact on my foot doing the hurdles. So yes, there are more underfunded schools than me even that I had, but most definitely it's ridiculous. It's just really ridiculous. And then all the black people being villains. Like I said in my Resident Evil, how white is Resident Evil? You can have black villains, you can have ethnic villains, dark-skinned villains, just don't have them be the only dark-skinned or black person there. Thank you. Have a good night. It should really be that freaking gosh darn simple. So going back to the menu, this dude who is known for being a villain, we already knew something bad was going to happen. The whole secret, the whole turnaround is not because that this man is evil. We knew this man who played Voldemort was going to be the villain of this story, antagonist of this story. What I don't like is the fact, the implications, like you cannot talk about class and not talk about race unless this is fiction or fantasy or like science fiction, often someplace that doesn't exist. You cannot have, or you, them, or us, and have a lot of white people in the kitchen. Like I said, there was some black people. I think there was like one black girl. You cannot have an Asian woman be the server and then not talk about the implications of why is this white man the top server or whatever. It's like, oh yeah, okay. You can say, oh, that makes sense because he got more opportunity to become this and that, but it just doesn't make sense on the scale of class. We are talking about class here. So he's like this dude who's like, I can't stand that y'all are doing this. And then it's like, okay, like I said, if you want to make this chef that's crazy, a black man, a Hispanic man, any person that would have came here to this country thinking that they were going to get the American dream and they didn't, or they were disappointed. Because I don't know if he's an immigrant either. I'm not sure. But they were trying to make it seem like he was some dude who was sick of seeing the rich people do this and that and that. Like, making him white didn't make sense classically. And I don't know if that's how you say that, but like, it just doesn't make any sense. He should have been somebody else if they were going to have this topic of class. And it would have been interesting and it would have been a deeper layer to have them be immigrants as well. But like, I don't know who wrote this. I don't know if it was a man, woman. This is a good movie to me, in my opinion. But him being white makes no sense. I'm sorry. So this restaurant is like a cult. They all live together and they harvest and they gel. That's what the Asian woman says. She's got a lot of lines. I think that's really cool. Women power. It would have just been nice to have a black woman have lines. Maybe a black woman could have been Margot. Why do they keep getting this girl who has already done oh, you're broken, oh, you've been abused storyline and give her another same old storyline? Like, give her something else. The Queen's Gambit is another one of those things. She's like broken and then she's the chosen one. This is the third time. I'm sick of seeing that now. Please do something different. Do something better. Thank you. Like the girl who plays Margot, I don't know her name right now, but she was in The Queen's Gambit and she was also in Split. Split was like the worst one. Like, I liked Glass. It was Glass was okay. I think Glass was the worst one. Okay, the Glass was the absolute worst one. Split was really close to Glass, but Unbreakable was my favorite. I really liked Unbreakable. And guess what? Elijah was a black man who was a villain, and there was a black woman, and there weren't that many black men in that movie, but there was a black woman who was his mom, and she wasn't like, I mean, there's a lot to say. There's certain aspects, like that one movie in particular, I'm fine with how many black people were in that movie. It could have been more. There could have been more, and it would have been nice, but there's barely any people in this movie, like any people who matter, you know what I mean? Like, Unbreakable is such a strange movie that it's kind of like a comic book. Like, each frame is kind of like a comic book, which is really, really cool. M. Night Shyamalan misses a lot, but Unbreakable was his hit. And people say that Signs was, and people say that Sixth Sense was, but for real, magnum opus was his Unbreakable. Unbreakable was his best movie. The way it was shot, the way it looked, the characters, it was the best. Hands down. No one can tell me differently. You can try and we can have a discussion about it in the comments, but I am firm on that and I will give you my reason if you would like to have that discussion. But back to the menu. So they don't even get to the thing before they get their first course. I think the foamy oysters, everything, by the way, I'm going to say just a regular rundown of what the dish is, but I don't know exactly what it was called inside the movie right now. Because like I said, I don't have a script. I am just doing this off the cuff. That's mostly what quick bits are, even if they're not so quick, but they're supposed to be. They get foamy oysters. They get things that are not the thing that is supposed to be the thing. Like, it's the foam of an oyster. It's like crazy. It's like they're getting what, like, I'll tell you, later. It makes more sense down the line. But the next thing is like, he says don't take photos. He doesn't want them to eat. He wants them to taste and savor the food. And Margot and him go back and forth because she's like, you told me not to eat. And he's like, that's not what I meant. And I'm like, I don't know what you mean. I personally thought if they ate, they were going to get killed. I was sitting here like I knew they were going to die. Like all this, I knew they were going to die. And also, since this movie has like a theatrical like setting, it's like, it looks like theater. It's really cool. The setting of it's like in one place. I think that's really awesome. That's another thing that makes me like this movie. Just like Unbreakable had that way of looking like panels. Each scene looked like panels because it's like Elijah had something to do with like comic books and stuff. He liked comic books. I personally think that the theatricalness of this movie really helped it be sold to me personally. But Tyler, the BSer, takes pictures and stuff, and I think that's funny. And the Taco Tuesday thing, I'll tell you about it later. But the next thing is like a melon balled salad. Each meal is like shows the guests in their gelling, like they're talking each individual time. You see them talking to each other, and there's the dude who cheated on his wife and then hired a prostitute to be his daughter. They have been here a dozen times, and supposedly the guy, Sid the Sloth, and drag queen from Tu Wong Fu dude, he's like, oh, I know the chef, and da-da-da-da, even though he's BSing too. But literally, they be eating the food, and Margot's like, I don't want this. And they get a single scallop on a single rock. It's huge. And then the scallop's small. It's crazy. They're just da-da-da-da gelling and whatnot. Then they get breadless bread. And I think this is when the chef is like, who are you? And she's like, my name's Margot. And he's like, what's your real name? And she's like, my name's Margot. And maybe it's because she's being hired for that night and she has to do what he says. And that's just me personally, because like I said, I've watched this movie once. I have not analyzed it like 60 times. I've just watched it once, and based on what I saw the first time, I feel like she only said her name was Margot the whole time is because she's getting paid for that time. And the chef was upset because she wasn't supposed to be there. So she's like the odd one out, because that dude, girlfriend dumped him or something crazy. I personally think he killed her. Me personally, because this dude is like crazy. Like Tyler is crazy. So during Taco Tuesday is when they get their tortillas, and all the tortillas have their sins on there. I don't remember what the girls' sins were. Literally all the girls have nothing that's like really bad at all. And all the men have like embezzlement, cheating, taking pictures of the food even though that's not cool. Like even though it was understood to be against the rules. And it's like really funny. And then the mess is when the chef, the white chef, comes out and shoots himself in the head. And yeah, that doesn't have to be an ethnic person. Like I said, if you do everything horrible to your ethnic people or your gay people or your trans people, and they're the only trans people, gay people, or ethnic people at all, then yes, it's a problem. Yes, that's why the whole reason why I brought up Wednesday was because all of the black people serve to be like the villains. All of them. There's not a single black person that is like just a regular person. And then you have this Indian dude who's like the model minority dude who does nothing wrong. Those two things are both wrong. Why can't you make people, when you make white people, you make them complex because you're like, you care about them. You don't care about ethnic people or people who are not cis or not straight. I just don't understand why you can't just make people, make them have flaws and make them have good things. You do that with every white person. You do that with every white character. You redeem every white person. But for some reason, it just makes no sense. And yes, the girl eventually is like not so hostile, but Wednesday is very unlikable in the sense that Wednesday wasn't mean to be mean. Like, she was mean to people who did BS, she was mean to everyone in Wednesday. But just listen to the Christina Ricci's Wednesday. Another thing about that, I hated that her and her mom were like at odds. And yeah, you can be like, oh, teenagers are but it's like, I'm not going to talk about Wednesday here. All I know is the menu could have benefited from more ethnic people being in the main immediate cast. And I don't mean the rich people. They don't have to be rich people. Everybody could be the same except Margot. Like I said, she could have been a black woman. And yes, she would have been a prostitute. And that would have had implications. But as it stands, where's the black women who have any lines at all? There's a black man who has a little bit of lines, barely any. You have an Asian man who has barely any lines. And I think they're gay, but I'm not sure. And then you have black woman who says like, yes, chef and no chef and stuff like that in the kitchen occasionally, among a bunch of other people who are speaking the same lines. And then you have all these white people who have tons of lines, and yeah, they can be jerks. And like I said, just if you're going to make everyone a jerk, it doesn't matter how many ethnic people are there, because everyone's a jerk and everyone's equally. And they're not actually, because like I said, all the women, they have done nothing wrong compared to what the men have done, and they're still getting killed at the end. They're still being smored up. People are covered in chocolate and marshmallows, and then they all burn up at the end. Spoiler. But Margot has like 11 minutes or so to decide if she's one of them or one of them, and one of them being the takers or the givers. The givers are the chef people in the kitchen, and then the takers are the rich people. And eventually throughout these courses that I was talking about, literally, and then there's like the palate cleanser, but that's after the men are actually told that they can try to escape, and they don't. They get captured because they're on an island. I really don't know what they thought they were going to do. There was no boat. And then while that's happening, I can't remember what happened, but I'm getting everything mixed up. I just remember some things like the Asian girl who's the server, who's like the main server in the dining room, literally fights Margot because she's like, you're not going to replace me. And she's like, I don't want to replace you. I want to live, girl. And she's all, like, we're all going to die. And she kills her. So she's dead. And what's his face don't even talk about it. Like, he don't even talk about where is she. She's killed. He doesn't even talk about it from what I remember. The main chef doesn't even talk about this woman who's been his lackey the entire time. But I guess because Margot was like, yeah, I'm going to be on the server side. Tyler is told to go in the kitchen and make food. And they have everything because they have a farm. I think that's really cool. They have a farm. They're self-reliant. Even though it's a cult, it's like not cool to be a cult. But like, it would be cool. Like, why don't cults like clean the ocean, or like give food to the homeless, or like build houses for the homeless, or like clean roads? Like, why aren't cults doing that? Like, Jared Leto, like, what are you doing with your cults? Like, other than making them smell your butt hair? Like, I don't understand. Like, I really don't understand what you're doing. Like, you have so much power and sway. Like, if I had that much power and sway and I had a cult, we'd be cleaning stuff. We'd be fixing stuff. We've been giving food to people. We'd be like, it'd be cool. Like, that'd be really cool. Like, just imagine a cult of people like Batman, except like not gonna just beat people up on the street, but like cleaning stuff. Like, that'd be cool. Or Captain Planet, whatever his name is. But so back to the menu. Tyler's a BSer, so he tells him, it's not really certain what happens to Tyler, because he just like is gone now. And I thought that was really cool, because it's kind of like theater. But a lot of people die on screen. But like only one person, like 2 people die like on screen, like blood. But the rest of them are kind of like implied. Well, 3 people die on screen. That dude that got sent into the water, that was crazy. But literally. So Margot calls for help, and turns out the people who she called are on the chef's side, and he's like, you're not one of us, so go back to the table. And she's like, I haven't eaten anything. And the cool thing is, if you watch the movie, you notice that the chef like claps to get everyone's attention and to get his chef's attention. So she claps and she's like, I'm hungry. And he's like, ain't no way, because everything was supposed to be the same. Everything was supposed to be enough for your stomach. And she's like, yeah, no, I'm hungry. And she's like, give me a burger. And he's like, okay. And she's like, nah, you ain't about to fool me. I don't want no molecular gastronomy mess that you've been giving me all night. I want a real burger with a bun and a cheese and meat. And he's like, I'll make you a burger that your mom could barely afford. And it's like some rundown burger. And she says burger because when she was in his office, when she was calling for help, she saw, and I think also when he sent her in there, because he was asking her who was she, like a giver or taker, and she saw a picture that he had framed of him being like some burger flipper. And since it was framed, she felt like it meant something to him. So she was like, give me a burger. And he was like, all right. And the reason why he's killing all these people and killing himself and killing all his people that's with him, which I don't understand why they have to die. And another thing, there's this girl that says it was her fault. And this is another thing that I like about this movie, because there's always, like I said in one of my videos a long time ago, I think it was in my consent video. If you'd like to look at that, check it out. Link is in the description, or navigate my playlists and you'll see my consent playlist. I have multiple videos. I have a few videos on there, but there's going to be more because consent is always a topic that I would love to talk about. But literally, if there's a guy being scummy, there's always some girl helping him. Like, there's never been a king or ruler on this earth that has ruled without a woman in their ear, or a woman beside them, or a woman doing things in the background, not getting recognition, being treated like crap, and still serving him. So there's this girl who says, yeah, it was my idea to kill everyone. It's like, congratulations. But she could have been lying. I don't know. Because he never gives her credit. He says that this is his thing, so everyone's going to die. But he makes her a burger, and she took one bite, and she was like, yeah, that's a burger. It looked really good. Like, I'm literally making burgers tonight because I saw that movie, and I'm like, I'm going to make burgers. But she's like, that's a burger. And she's like, can I take this to go? And that's how she survives. And I thought that was really awesome, because I knew she was either going to die or survive. It's like, there's nothing else in the between. I knew she was going to live. But like I said, this is the third time of this girl being in a movie and surviving because she's broken or used goods, quote unquote. I only say that in the sense of that's what people say. I don't say that like I think she's used goods just because she's a prostitute. Like, I am for sex workers, because if people are going to like do that anyway, you might as well monetize, honestly. Get your bills, get your monies. But literally, she leaves and she sits there and eats the burger and watches as it's inflamed, like engulfed in flames, because the last dish, palate cleanser, I don't know if that's what the ending is. I can't remember what it's called, but the s'mores at the end is basically the end. And they didn't even get to eat it. Like, they just like threw stuff on the floor and made like art, and the chef throws fire on himself and dies. It's like, that's the end. And she's on a boat. She's on the boat that guy brought. And there we go. That's the end. So a lot had to go in a way in order for her to get there. But I think that's cool. I think multiple layers is really cool. The movie's all right. Like I said, it would have been nice to have a black woman or any other person that's not a white woman be the prostitute. And like I said, there are implications. But if you want to talk about class, you cannot talk about how people are suffering in the world and and not talk about race. You cannot do those things. Why are we looking at this poor old white man talk about how nobody enjoys his food anymore? And I think that's another reason why the girl survives, because she enjoyed the burger and no one really enjoyed the food that he made. It was like top quality stuff, and they were just like, been there, done that, because they've been here before. The husband and wife have been here before. But honestly, why are you talking about this garbage and then not talking about race? You cannot do that, especially if you're going to talk about this is in the real world. If this is, like I said, if this is fantasy, if this is science fiction, if this is anything else, by all means, don't talk about race. Please don't. Please don't talk about race. Do not. But since this is in the real world, and we're talking about real money, we're talking about real life, we're talking about real things, why were we following this white prostitute? Not to say this movie is a scary movie, but scary movies and movies that are like suspenseful like this has been doing this for years. Sparing the white woman and making everyone else die. The young white woman that survives, the survivor, the lone survivor, who is usually seen as pure. That pureness can be seen within the structures of white supremacy. It wouldn't be read like that if they actually spared women who were not just young and white in these movies. Why was she not Hispanic or black or anybody else? Trans. She could have been trans and she survived. That would have been cool. But we are following this white prostitute and we're following this white man who's the villain when switching out their races. I don't know if this comes from a book. I have no idea. I'm pretty sure it has to come from somewhere. It has to come from some written documents, whether it be a play or a book. Usually movies are from books or already previously written writings or literature or whatever. But I would say that it would have been a better movie had the villain been any other ethnicity, preferably maybe immigrant, who would feel slighted that he worked so hard just for people to not take his work seriously. That would have made more sense, in the sense, like literally and plot wise. It would have worked better for the prostitute to not be a white woman. Like, it's always the white woman who survives at the end. We're done with that now. It can be somebody else. And that's why I'm not giving them credit for a lot of this commentary on capitalism, because if you're not willing to give these roles to ethnic people and tell that story, then I'm not here for it, because you're just like everyone else and you're not going to tell the real story. The real story, it would have been a prostitute who was a black woman, or somebody of a minority, because what? Girl, just don't be a prostitute. And yes, there are white prostitutes. There are, most definitely. But like I said, we're talking about class. If we're talking about class situation, if we're talking about this here and there. So please, I would give this movie, I really wanted to give it an 8, but it's not. It's a 7. I would give The Menu a 7 out of 10. The Menu is like really satire. Like, people like to say, oh, satire is literally just being racist, but satire is so much different than just the joke that you think is funny because you think it's true. And that's racism in some aspects. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked what I talked about, if you liked what I had to say, check out my other quick bits, which are located in Thoughts of Mine playlist. If you would like to watch me play video games, I have playthroughs. Some of them are not completed. Some of them are. If they are completed, their main story, it will say. If you want to watch me live, I stream on Twitch, the Princess of Darkness _ between the Princess of and Darkness. I am on TikTok now. If you want to see me on TikTok, I promote my YouTube page. I have nature videos, and I also have Apex Legends highlights. So check me out. Link is in the description. Also, if you would like to see any video that I brought up in this video, link will be in the description, or you can navigate my playlists. They're very easy to navigate. I hope you enjoyed. How did you like The Menu? Did you agree with what I had to say? Did you disagree? Let's have a conversation in the comments. Please like, follow, share, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Right now, I am done.